So, what was your occupation before you started SORM?
Good question, Andrew. So before I even thought about creating Storm, I had an idea that I wanted to create a studio. I was working for a place called Project Carnes. And I was with a general manager, and I was managing up to 98 staff. And I managed the whole of the departments, although I had team leaders that regularly reported to me. And I did 10 years for him as a general manager. I saw an advert in the Telegraph and Argus, which was John Bolton, who come my business partner for the future in School of Rock and Media, that my local youth club had been robbed of their musical instruments. And I just said, I just want to donate stuff. The kids can have it, or the young people could have it, as long as I could volunteer. So we were just doing like a Tuesday evening and a Thursday evening up at Mappa, just volunteering for young people before I even quit my job. And in initial days, John was sort of like looking at the evenings, working the evenings, and I was just pitching him where I could, volunteering and giving my advice on the business side of it and building it there. Eventually, it did come to where I had to quit my job.
So, what was your role as a volunteer?
So, believe it or not, I took a youth work course, level 2. Like John said, it'd be really good for me to do. So it was a youth club setting with a bit of a studio. You know, we're just pitching in where we can with some of the young people. Worked with the Slovakian community that were based up there, and they were coming down, they were jamming out, they were so gifted in music. A game of pool, table tennis, arts and crafts, performances. Just pitching in where we could, just to help the CYPs, the children and young people. We've got a little bit of funding here and there. John's a really incredible bid writer, so we're really relying on John's bid writing. And I was earning £10 a week. John was earning £10 a week for 2.5 years, and we were living off our wife's wages.
What kind of heartache?
Well, hardship in money. We had no money, Andrew. No money. I had to rely on my wife's wage, so did John. We know, we were running bangers of cars, and, you know, we couldn't really afford a car. We were getting on buses. You know, the £10 we got were basically to help us with our bus fares. We didn't have no money. We had nothing. You know, it was John's dad and mum that gave us £6,000. And my dad was a builder and said he'll build it all. I still stand to the day, if we didn't have that, we wouldn't be here now. And my thanks goes to them, truly, from my heart. So, if I've got to be honest, it was really, really hard in the early days, and it was, as you can see, quite emotional to talk about. Like, should we carry on? Is it worth this hardship? And then there was elements where, no, come on, John, no, come on, Tony. We've got the passion, we believe in it, and thank God we went down that road and believed in it to see where we are today, to have 2 great branches, great people working for us. But I think it's one of the best decisions and one of the hardest decisions I've probably made.
So, why did you choose music, and why do you feel like music's important?
Well, I'm a musician. Is, you know, probably one of my passions of music is playing in some really, really big bands and having the opportunity to tour the world, tour Europe, to do albums, to record at some marvellous studios. Is, you know, something I believe in is music is a leveller. It definitely has been for me, and through my ill health and through everything that I've gone through lately, that music has been a big support for me. I've spent 30 odd years in music and as a professional musician, and I've really, really enjoyed it. And I think my own aspirations and my own ethos and passion was to give music back. I didn't know how it was going to turn out, I've got to be honest. It turned out all right in the end. But yeah, I think that's a big believer that, you know, that I knew quite a lot about music.
So, do you feel like music's the main outcome for the people that we support at SORM?
No. No, I think music's a leveller for friendship and peership building and getting people together to discuss and talk. You know, I think it's one of the outcomes, Andrew. You know, there's a lot of outcomes and pathways, like personal development, business communications. That's not music. It's teaching about business, career planning, teaching about their careers, you know, life skills, cooking. You know, some of these people we support would never do this at college, would never do this at other places. And we're personal-centred, and we tailor to the individual person we support, so we know they've got different needs. And I think we've sort of changed it to any other different provider. That I'm not saying these other good providers will do music, but I think we're quite specialised in what we do and how we deliver it. And I don't think I want to change that uniqueness about the company. What I saw is that music could be used as a tool for bands, because originally my thought process wasn't about learning disabilities in the early days. It was about rocking out, giving young people the opportunity to have a rehearsal room and record, and obviously, become good friends and build patient friendships up. And then from there, when we did, we moved from Fagley Youth Club and went up to Mapper, which is up Manchester Road, and was offered just a garage. And it used to be a recording studio, but it was old with all the old stuff in, so we cleared that out and made a practice room. At Mapper, we started to see sort of a couple of lads, Ben and Sam, I'm sure Liz and John won't mind me mentioning them, and Paul and Declan, that joined us through direct payments, which does bring revenue, which helped for us to sort of grow a little bit. So two elements there, that we outgrew Mapper, but then we started looking at the sort of learning disability side and how we could make music work for these young people as well, which would come from elements of funding. So, yeah, and then we started looking at the sort of direct payments, and it was massive in Bradford at the time. And that from 4 young people, it went to 8 young people. And that 8 young people set someone on. But then, as time went on, 8 went to 12, 12 went to 16, and then we started to open up the day services. And within 4 to 5 months, we had sort of like 60 to 70 young people, and we couldn't fit them all in. So it started to grow, and sort of saw niche thinking, well, music is a really good tool for these young people. So we decided to take a plunge in the early days. And this was where I have to be grateful to Andrew and to Mick, which Andrew is John's dad and Mick is my father-in-law, who they give us a little bit of money to do John's dad, and my dad's a builder, and we decided to take the plunge to move to a new building in Edward Street and build more practice rooms and a bit of a shop and stuff like that, and a bit of a chill-out area. And it started to grow even bigger there, but how I got into learning disabilities from there was our wives used to work in respite centre for adult social care, and it was just a simple call, can we come down to do a karaoke session out of hours? I thought, yeah, it's great, yeah, please come down. So I think it was Michelle Bolton first, and then Michelle after, come down with 4 wheelchair users, and we just put the karaoke on, and I stood back and I saw the smiles. It just made everything for me, Andrew, the smiles, where I saw it in the early days, and I decided to go on a mission. If people know me, they know what I'm like. I just keep going. I'm very passionate, and I believe in the people we support, and my journey started there, really, with the people we support. Like anything in this world, you look into it, how it works, why they do it. And it was a thing where, instead of some of the funding what was in Bradford Central and from the council, that they put the onus on the parents for their choice to choose for their young people, to choose their daytime activities, etc., etc. So they was given a budget, and the budget could be anything from mobility cars for daytime activities, or to help with independent living, or anything that sort of like that, or supported living, anything that could help the young people going forward. So I did my research a lot about that, and obviously that evolved and evolved to get bigger and bigger and bigger, where we had to move again. We outgrew Edward Street, and people were shoulder to shoulder, and we couldn't do that. So as a company and as 4 directors, we've saved our own money and actually put our own money into that we'd saved, and it was a big gamble, because while John were developing Cater Street, just going back, when we was looking for buildings, we walked into Cater Street, and me and Michelle Bolton, our finance director, just said, no way, no chance. It's full of dead animals, it's windows out everywhere, this is a derelict building. And John persuaded all the directors to go back and just have one more look. And I think John saw the vision before us. Well, he did, I've got to be honest. And we went back in, and we tidied up a bit, and then we sort of went, yeah, I can see this happening. So, stage 3 of Cater Street evolved. So John was a development worker, so it made sense. He's great at developing stuff. He decided to take on the development role, and I ran the company and kept the company running at Edward Street and ticking over as we built it. And it did take a lot to build. We didn't build it all in one go. It's been over the years. I think we just built the first floor with a classroom, a bit of a stage, excuse me, and a bit upstairs, we had 4 practice rooms. So the initial thing was, we were still sort of working through the days, the daytime activities for the people we support, but the bands were still strong then, and the bands were back, and then obviously we opened the doors there, and yeah, we grew and grew and grew and grew. Nobody had heard of people delivering work like this, and I'm not knocking daytime activities at the time, but daytime activities come a bit sort of samey. I'll say there was some good ones out there, but they wanted to change. Within adult social care, let's ask them what they want. Let's work with the people support. What do they actually want? Not what a social worker wants them to do, what they want to do. And because we were so creative, everybody were hearing about this creative hub in Little Germany, what great things they're doing for the people we support and other things we were doing. We were just carrying on doing what we loved. The heads come to see us and obviously they went, wow, this is a creative hub. I think probably most of social work Bradford know me, as well as the university and the colleges we've worked with and the partnership we've done with that, is that I just built up my rep with the social workers and meeting them, tell them what we do, visits, come in, and then the word of mouth just shot through adult social care. And before you knew it, I'm working with hundreds of social workers.
I feel like I've been really lucky because I've been able to watch SORM grow in all these brilliant ways. We're growing so well, but then we got hit by the pandemic. So could you talk a little bit about how COVID affected you and the company?
Yeah, that I think that was a shock for everybody. It was worrying at the time as directors, thinking. I think this film's, for me, to be honest, is that I absolutely lost loads of sleep. How I could face all the team and say that they haven't got a job. That was my worst scenario. That I thought it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And we had that meeting, and I think it's clear as a day, Andrew, that I had that meeting. And I said, we're in this predicament. I don't know what we're going to do. It's a pandemic. We haven't seen this for a long, long time, decades. So we need to make this work, and we need to go online. And obviously we have some really good, talented people. One yourself, Andrew, and obviously Rona, who's behind the camera as well now, who's joined us as well. But it was like, how would it work? How could we go online? And with your expertise, and my expertise, that went to adult social care and said, look, we cannot give up on these people. We are really IT savvy, and we can act and change our websites and do learning hubs and do sessions online. Thank God adult social care agreed and carried on to fund us while we all worked at home. And I've got to give credit to you, Andrew Illingworth, for what you built, how you managed it, how we did it with Teams and Zooms and games rooms and sessions. And I think to the day now, I think it was some of the best interaction with our people we support we did ever. That is ever online. And it was seen across all of Bradford, not just of Bradford, but Yorkshire, what we'd done as a company and said, we are not giving up. We are going to make sure that, one, families are not in crisis, people are not isolated. And let's say it, we're still going to have fun. It wasn't just about the people support, it was about the whole team being isolated, being on their own, stuck in their home. There was ups and downs, there was emotions flying everywhere. The main focus was for the people we support and the isolation, the crisis we didn't want to kick in. I thought we was very, very good at what we did, but it wasn't just that. It was the regular team meetings we had with the team, checking in, are you okay, do you need any support? And I think I needed that support sometimes because obviously I'm one of the heads that has to make decisions for the team, and there was a lot of emotions, Andrew, flying about, and credit where credit's due is how this team pulled together through all that.
It wasn't just online, like, you was going and giving people shopping.
You're getting emotional. You're setting me off. Yeah, it wasn't just that. It was, well, it was lockdown. you know, and you were restricted to times when you could do stuff, you know, and I noticed a lot of crisis families. And I've got to give a big up to Francis and Ken at the time at the food bank that just asked me, do you need food? And it was myself and some of the team that went out. We jumped in our cars, bags of food, and delivered them to the doors and stayed at social distancing, knocked on the door and made sure that these families had food. And yeah, I forgot about that, Andrew. Yeah. Psalm, he's a family. And I think a lot of people maybe do see that, and some maybe not. I may be wrong. But it's a huge family now. But it's always been a family. And I remember that day delivering them bags of food, and the mum broke down at the door. And all she could do is say, thank you. But why? Why? Because I'm just a human being at the end of the day. And I don't want people to suffer.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I can look back now and we helped as much as we could and the interaction were there. But yeah, you sometimes forget, Andrew, don't you? I mean, I'm never lost for words. But all I can say is, wow, you know, I'm so grateful.
I think we've talked enough about COVID now. Let's talk about the social side versus the education side that's been recently set up.
I think Psalm's always been a social side. A lot of the people we support that love to come on social, to meet friends, to pay ship build, you know, not to be isolated, not to be in crisis. And should I say the word, to be normal, you know, and have a really, really happy sort of outcome. So social's always been there, and that's something that, yet again, one of our roots of mine and Johnny's, like, they'll never ever go, because that's how the company was built around the social, and the social centre is growing and growing again. As for the education as well, it's something that I've probably driven. I've driven a lot of, well, I've probably driven most of these things. But what I did see in the early days is, like, you know, that a lot of young people, especially in SEND and in the care leavers team and in the sort of NEAT side, that they wasn't going to school or they was dropping out, and we had some great modules. So we got a bit of funding from the National Lottery. Thank you to them. We managed to set one person who was called Lee at the time to facilitate a pilot scheme for 6 people on the education side to work in partnership with Youth Train, who was a training provider at the time, to see how this went. And then John said to me, well, obviously it's a bid, 12 months it's done. But then I went, no, this is another product of School Rock and Media. So that started opening up more doors for education. And obviously we sat in a media room in the education hub, learning hub as we speak now. And that just grew from strength to strength. But that, yes, you're right, it brought employability, which I strongly believe on. So, you know, the team has grown and grown again. It's probably doubled, hasn't it, since we moved? Yeah, you know, I think the last count with the 2 companies is probably well over 30 plus staff, you know, which is incredible. So that sort of the education where I could support on sort of entry level 1 and 2, sort of like in music production 1 and 2, personal development, business communications, career planning, you know, money management, etc., that we started to deliver through Youth Train. But then what I thought is, like, why couldn't we be our own training provider instead of using a third party? And the whole team did a 10-month project of work to get us to where we are, and now we are officially a training provider, which is fantastic, where we wanted to go, and that's growing and growing to strength, where we are getting more referrals from SEND. We are recognised now as a training provider and delivering education. For the inter-employment, this is another passion of mine as well, that I asked some relevant questions, and I won't name the people within the council because I don't think that's fair. You know, that council was saying that more people we support should work within local authority and have the employment or give that amount coming pathways. So that's the question, went, how many people we support work within the council? And the answer was 0. So myself and Ryan Cowley, we did a video the other day, decided to say, well, we need to make this work. And NHS England come in, and we got on this webinar or Zoom with them, and we were saying, we want to do this, and they were really interested in it. It was like, you know, 12 months of work, this. So we decided to write the paper, me and Ryan and Josh Wadsworth as well from Compliance Ascend, and come together to write a really, really big paper. And it was really, really well received by NHS. And we got right to the end, and they said, oh, we haven't got no funding. And we're thinking, how do we make this programme work? So what we did there is, like, Ryan as well, who was service manager in CTLD and the PFA team, said that we really need to make this work, and I really need to push this. And we took this to the strategic directors of adult social care for them to give an opinion on it, and they really, really liked it. And it went to DMT, and they decided to fund it as a 12-month pilot, which was fantastic news. So we had a cohort of 7 come in, 1 did drop out and 6 come in. And the success behind that was to get them employment, or to get them into higher education to get that employment. So it was quite successful the first year, which had just finished, to 4 into employment, 3 in local authority, 1 outside local authority, and 2 into higher education to actually get into BA, to bachelor degrees for some of the things I want to do. What a success. We have 9 on the cohort this year, and we've got people referring for next year, and I'm looking to double the cohort for next year to give more opportunities for employers to see what great work the Into-Employment can do. And now we have a new education hub for all the education that we're delivering, and it's just a fabulous building. I walked around this morning and it's so relaxed, and people learning and people enjoying and people smiling. What a great atmosphere has been created yet again. So yeah, we don't do things in half measures, Andrew. I don't think we ever do, and I don't think as a company we will change that. And yet again, John put on the development to develop it while I were in all the companies again. It's a bit like cliche, this, isn't it? It's like a little thing, isn't it, that we're outgrowing stuff now. You know, the journeys of outgrowing stuff is the success of School of Rock and Media for the great work they do and give back. And of course we all supported, and all the team supported, and 20 odd skips later, roofs on, an investment again. Yet again we used our money that we'd invested, and just thought we'll take the gamble again. And 14 weeks in, from July the 17th, if I'm correct, we started this build. We opened the doors, and it was 14 weeks, and I know, and I will apologise if some of the team watched this video now, what I put them through last half term at School of Rock and Media, especially some of the team leaders and the management there, that they really did an incredible job to facilitise it and to keep it going. It wasn't ideal, like we just touched earlier, Andrew, that it was really, really frustrating for some of the team. And all I can say is a big thank you for everybody believing in me and believing in the company. That, if people know Tony Saunders, I will never, ever give up until I hit that ultimate outcome and pathways for the people we support.
So I know for a while a few people had said a good idea would be to create a waiting list for the people we support. Why did you go against the idea of a waiting list?
Because I don't want people waiting. I've seen that across adult social care for a long time, where people are waiting to get in provisions. My question behind that is, if they're waiting, what are they doing? What are they accessing? I don't think it's fair on the people we support, or the students, or the CYPs, or everybody that we support within School of Rock and Media. Growth was no option for me in my mind, that we had to grow to facilitise more students accessing, and we're talking more students next year and probably more headaches. But it's all for the good of the people we support, and the team will grow again. With the new hub, we've got scope now, just at the new hub, but down at the social centre. As we speak now, we've got more capacity and more choice in the companies now for the people we support. But yeah, I probably will cause more headaches, Andrew. That's just Tony Saunders.
Is there anything you'd have done differently?
Could I be a cliche and say I wouldn't have done anything differently, because I knew what I wanted to do, and I believed in my passion and my ethos. John believed in his passion and his ethos. We brought it together. You'd never put us two together, a community development worker and a businessman. And it did work. So, yeah, it was ironic that it did work. So, and I don't want it to be a cliche, but I don't think I'd have done anything different, because where we sat now and what we're doing now is incredible.
So where do you see SORM in the future, and where do you see yourself in the future?
This gets asked a lot and a lot to me, Andrew. I hope we grow, and I hope we keep growing, but I hope we keep our feet on the ground like everybody has done. And I hope that carries on that ethos, and I hope, some of the people that are seniors here stay with us for ever if they could. And a lot of my family and John's family are working for the company now and seeing us grow it. There was children then, but are adults now and work within the company. And I hope it is a brighter future, you know, for School of Rock and Media going forward, and for them to see what me and John and Michelle have done. As for me, I still can't answer that question. I am 50. You know, just gone 50. You know, I'm not getting any younger. You know, I've gone through a lot. You know, I would like to sort of scale down, but I don't think I would ever be away from School of Rock and Media. I'd always be some part of the team or director, or I just don't know how it'd look, but I would like to scale down and trust other people to run the companies, and, you know, and hopefully, you know, be proud of everybody else for the future, and just you know, sit back and go, we have created a legacy, me, John, Michelle and Michelle, and I'm proud of it.
So maybe a few more holidays, a bit more time off?
Maybe. I don't know, Andrew. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've got everything.
It's just something bright for the future for the people that want to have alternative education or different education and want a voice and a choice. And I think the future looks bright for School of Rock and Media.